What is up? If you're like 99% of our clients, you probably think that your website could benefit from more traffic. And while that may be true, it's almost certainly not the biggest problem that your website has. One of my favorite quotes over the past 25 years of my career in this particular industry is from a guy named Russell Brunson, who says, everybody thinks they have a traffic problem, but almost nobody has a traffic problem. They have a conversion problem. So what is conversion and how do you fix it on your website quickly and easily? That's what I'm going to spend the next few episodes telling you about. All right, so when we talk about conversion, what we're talking about is making more of these visitors to your website turn into customers for your business. And the way we make that happen is by taking our websites beyond this brochureware, where people show up, it looks beautiful, they find a lot of content, they read that content, maybe they save some of that content and they move on. What we want to do is turn more of those visits into leads and customers by capturing information or by facilitating transactions of some sort. And the way we can do that is actually really simple. So there are a few really good go-to tactics that we like to use and that are kind of standard practice or industry standard now. And they're so easy to do with some of the platforms that are available today. And since I've been digging into the HubSpot platform that we use internally over my past couple of lessons, I'm going to talk about that one in particular over the next couple of lessons here. Now, before we dive in, know that I'm trying to get to the 1,000 followers or 1,000 subscribers on this channel. It's a brand new channel. Actually, it's like 4 weeks old. And I think we have just under 300 subscribers so far. I want to get that to 1,000 here as quickly as possible, shooting for the end of this month. So if you like this content, please make sure that you click the red subscribe button below the video on YouTube. So if you're watching this anywhere else, please go to our YouTube channel and do the same. And the web address for that is distillagency.com/YouTube. So let's dive in. So I think the easiest way to illustrate this to you is to just kind of show you my screen and let's walk through the concepts that we're going to talk about here. So once again, we are here in HubSpot and I'm under a section of this tool called marketing. And then I'm going to go into forms. Now, you probably have forms on your website. And we very often call these lead forms. Why? Because they can generate leads when people fill them out. And that's great. But a lot of times what we're expecting people to do is go to like a contact us page or a learn more or schedule a free consultation kind of page and then fill out a form. And those can be great. The problem is we really need to make sure that people are going to see that call to action and actually use it. While what we're going to talk about today is a pop-up form gives them a much more compelling reason to click, and in most cases really eliminates about 90% of the friction associated with pushing people from one page to the next. So here's an example. I'm going to say create form. And here's where we can create a regular lead form. So this is the kind you probably have on your website already. People fill it out and then it gets emailed to someone else. That's great. But let's talk about our pop-up forms today. Now, as I show you how these work, know that we've actually worked with a number of different platforms to facilitate these on our websites. And Opt-in Monster is one of the really big ones, very popular. Problem is most of these have fees associated with them. And once again, what I'm going to show you today is using our free demo account of HubSpot. So everything that we're doing here requires no budget at all. And that's pretty cool. So here we go. We're going to choose a pop-up form and you can start to get a preview of how these things work. But I'm going to go to the next step and show you in even more detail what the options are that come along with one of these. So I want you to envision me being on your website, and no matter what page of the site I'm on, I'm going to have this ability to be prompted to download something or request something or otherwise contact or register or opt into something. So here's some of the different types of pop-up forms we have available to us in HubSpot. The one that's up here by default is a pop-up box. So we also call these modal windows. They're the things that would appear in front of the rest of the content on your website. And we can do that at any point in time during the user experience. So during that visitor's interaction or session with your website. Another kind we can do is a drop-down banner. So this would actually slide down over the top of your website. And then we have slide-in boxes, and we can do that in either the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner. You probably see these a lot more today, and they're very simple to implement, so they're very effective, and that's why you see so many of these out there. So for the sake of this, I'm going to do one of these very popular slide-in boxes. I'm going to do slide-in right because I like that one in terms of usability, and then I'm going to click on next. So over here, we do have the ability to add a thumbnail image to that pop-up, which can make it a little more engaging. Let's say this is to allow people to download a white paper or some other PDF. Maybe I would do just an Adobe PDF icon here, something to make it a little more visually pleasing, but it's absolutely optional. Okay, call out text. This is where I could say, download our white paper. And if I want to have some text down below that, I could say, learn the ins and outs of legal, or whatever I want this to say, just as an additional description. And then the button text, of course, I could say download now. And I can specify colors. I can choose from the existing library or put one in that matches my website perfectly. I will just leave that. And what should this button link to? There's a number of different things we can do here. So we could go to the next step in the form, which is what I'll show you here real quick. We could do a non-HubSpot URL. So just put in a web address that it's going to send people to when they click on this. A file download, which is pretty much what we're talking about in this scenario. A meeting link so that people could actually go and book a consultation, for example, and they can do that with live integration for your calendar. So seeing real-time availability, and once they book a time, it blocks it off in your calendar. Very cool. We've been using this internally for a very long time. And then another one would be a calendar event. So maybe you could say, join us for our free webinar next Thursday at noon, and this will automatically give them access to that and put that calendar event on their calendar. So let's go to our next step here. And this is what's going to happen if people actually click on that button. So now we can say, complete the form below, or we could say, enter your email address below, give them some instructions. And then for form fields in the free version here, we have a few that we can choose from. So I'm going to do first name, and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do last name too. And I'm going to talk about why that could be pretty cool here in just a bit. The last one that we could choose is going to be phone number. Keep in mind that's typically higher friction, so you would use it in scenarios where people are requesting to have a free consultation, where you know they really want to have a real live conversation with you. But if it's something like downloading, accessing other content on the site, probably hasn't been enough trust established at this point that they're going to be willing to give you a lot of contact information, so keeping it simple is typically better. Now I don't want to start with email, so I'm just going to drag that one down here to the bottom. And then once again, I'm going to say download the PDF as the button. And for those of you who have to worry about GDPR right now, you have options that relate to that. Another thing that's kind of cool is when we were talking about that HubSpot CRM piece and really being able to manage our deals, our sales opportunities internally, if you haven't watched that episode, it's right up here. Then we can actually say, hey, if somebody fills this out, we want to consider them to be somewhere along that sales cycle, that pipeline that we have set up, where we can say this person's just a general lead or a subscriber. We could say they're a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead. Maybe this is an actual request for work form, in which case we would make them a bona fide sales opportunity. So you can automatically mark your contacts in the HubSpot CRM as a specific type of contact or lead based on that. So we've got that piece, and now I'm going to click next. And this is where we're going to have our thank you message. And if we want, we can add a button like click here to continue browsing the website, or click here to read our blog, or anything else where you might want to send them along the way. All right. Now we've got our file download. This is where we can browse files and actually say this is the PDF that we want them to be able to download once they fill out the form. So that's what we're going to do. And when we're done with that piece, I'm just going to go over to next. We can create a follow-up email. Now, these are really handy for a few things. In this scenario with the PDF, for example, what we could use this for is to send them a confirmation email that has another link to that PDF. So if they lose it, didn't save it, want to access it on another computer, very easy to go back to that email, pull up that link, and then download that file again. So that's really handy. In other cases, of course, you could say, hey, this email is just a thank you for downloading a certain PDF and wanted to make this offer for you. Join us for this webinar, or make sure you check out this white paper, or would you like to schedule some time to chat? Click here to book time on my calendar. Endless possibilities here to have some sort of follow-up, so that again, we're not just letting that one visit to your website be the end-all be-all for your interactions with this lead. I'm going to click next. And this is pretty cool because we don't necessarily want to have the same pop-up form on every single page of the website. And we certainly, as a general rule, don't want to have it pop up immediately. So we have these little settings that are available to us where we can say things like, all right, only show this one on these particular pages. And then we can specify those pages here. So maybe we have a different pop-up form by practice area on our law firm website. Each one of those, maybe it's, hey, book time, or maybe it's request a consultation. And based on the practice area, each one of those would actually book with a different lawyer at your law firm or give them access to some other calendar. We can also do stuff down here, like if the person is already a customer, then show this instead. Or if this person's part of a stage of our sales pipeline, then we want to do something different there. If they're on browser or mobile browser versus desktop browser, we can make changes there, which is always cool. And then down at the bottom here are triggers. So this is where we could say, when do we actually want this to display on those pages? And we could say, if they're on the page for a certain amount of time, like after 5 seconds, then have this thing pop up. We can also say on 50% scroll. So if people are clearly interested enough in the page that they're scrolling down and reading, then we say, all right, they're probably going to be interested in this relevant offer, so we're going to pop it up then. So we can specify those things, and then I'm going to click next. And you'll see, of course, for the free version here, we're going to have the HubSpot branding in there, and that's because nothing's truly free, right? But this is still very functional. It's going to be very effective. And if at any point you do decide that you want to upgrade, again, the same offer that I made in the last episode is that you can go to distillagency.com/HubSpot. And not only will we get you free access to the HubSpot CRM that includes all the stuff we've talked about today, but I can also get you 45 minutes of free setup time from my company. And if you do decide to upgrade to HubSpot products and services that have an associated fee at any point, we can negotiate bigger discounts for you. So back to this page, you'll see that we have a couple of additional options again. So being able to turn off the pop-up form on small screen sizes because maybe it's going to take over too much of the screen and you don't want a bad user experience. We could also say if someone dismisses the pop-up, so clicks, no thanks, the X, then we don't want to show it to them again on the next page of your website just because the rule specifies to show it on that page also. That's a bad user experience. So we can say, look, if they don't take us up on that offer, if they just close the pop-up form window, then wait a certain period of time to show it to them again. After 2 weeks by default, then maybe it's going to pop up if they return to your website. And then here, of course, we can say, when people fill this form out, please notify somebody on our team. And that's where you can specify whoever you want, whatever email address you want those to go to, and you can do multiple emails there. Now, once you've created this pop-up form, remembering, of course, that you can create as many of these as you want, you're going to be able to put it on your website. And how do you do that? Well, HubSpot has a little tracking module, a little code snippet, and all you have to do is paste that into the main header of your website, and you can do that globally. So most websites today, you have the ability to stick a piece of code in one page or one template, and then it will go to every page of the site. So you just throw that little thing in there, and then all of a sudden here, when you specify which pages on your website you want to have these forms show up on, it'll automatically happen. So you really don't need a web developer to do anything beyond that very first step. From that point forward, it's completely self-managed. That makes it really easy for you to go in and add and modify these over time to make sure they're staying fresh and relevant and that you're optimizing to ensure, of course, that more of your traffic is turning into conversions, because that's the name of the game. So this is just tactic one. As I said, I'm going to spend the next couple of episodes working on this, so stick with me. Be sure to subscribe down below, like down below, hit the notification so you don't miss the next one. It's going to be even cooler than today's. Thanks for stopping by.